All right, greetings again from the recovery room of Racism Non-Anonymous with me, Sis Abena, the recovering African who is enslaved in America, and who is a representative from the Voices of the Margin. I am also true to the cause of liberation via unification and utilizing the tool of healthy and effective communication. This message is a video. I'm also true to the cause. Well, I just said that, didn't I? Okay, so yes, I am typically aware when my communication is unclear and or faulty. And this is a conversation for a brother goes by the name of Scott with one O, in a discussion at IYPAD Africa, and it was on a discussion that was started by Moja, asking the question, how should Africans resolve conflict with each other? Now, my feedback to you, Brother Scott, suggests that what I initially began to respond to, and which I, for me, appropriately and adequately labeled your comments as your shit. I recognize that I was initially responding to the word should. When you came into the conversation and said what the question should be as opposed to what it is, supported my saying, well, from your perspective, that is your shit, the question, the better question would be the question that you posed, or in the way you posed it, as opposed to the way the brother did. And it was the use of that buzzword should. You should, or this should, we should. Now, I just reread the question, and what I picked up immediately was, oh, well, you know, this brother Mojo was also sort of sharing his shit. And, well, he just asked the question, what should we do? And that by default invited us all to share our shit, if you will, in terms of this should. And so in part, well, one, I needed to clarify that, and so I wanted to clarify that, one. Two, I also want to take responsibility for my missing Brother Mojo's use of that buzzword should in his communication with us. Again, as a communications coach, I am it's acutely, or attuned to the words that we use and what happens when we use certain words in communication and conversation with each other. Again, my express purpose is liberation, African liberation via coming together. And in order to come together and stay together, healthy and effective communication is key. The discussion as it went, and as you began to say, you were concerned with sort of not going ballistic or, going off on people. And of course, that is something that I work to prevent and or intervene when it begins to happen. As a communications coach, that's what I do. As a healer, being me that I am, Mama Earth, it is about, assuring that a growth happens for, life that is produced from me, Mama Earth. And that there's growth, and there cannot be growth when we are using words to sort of tear each other down or tear each other apart or tear at each other's ideals and creativities and efforts towards attaining the long-term goals that we all appear to have. which is liberation for the African nation. So that was one piece, and you said some other things to me, but I take responsibility for that, and I encourage you and Mojo and others as we continue our efforts towards recovery and reclaiming our African selves, our African mental and cultural being and style of being in the world, that we may want to be conscientious about the words that we choose and how we choose them. I encourage a deletion, if you will, of the word should whenever it is used in the context of suggesting what another African ought do or ought be doing, unless they have asked you. And so in that regard, Mojo asked, as an African on the continent, what should we be doing about this situation? The question, may have been first, like, is there something we might want to do? Are you concerned about it? And or for him to just simply express his position, which is, I see some things happening over here. I'm very concerned about a negative outcome. Is there something that can be done? Is there something that can be done? And invite commentary from that stance as opposed to what should we do. I don't know what we should do yet. So Scott also said to me yesterday, let's see if I can find this, it's a very long conversation, and then I see that you did not, you came into the conversation late. There didn't seem to be anything prior to when I responded to you as I initially thought there was. This is a very long conversation, and I apologize that I was not at the spot. Okay. So, yes, you said to me, yeah, you didn't want to go ballistic, and I'm glad that you did not, if you did not. I am modest, low, and common decency dictates that I should not blow a gasket at people if I want. Yes, I've decided to respond. First of all, you don't understand the usage of a certain word or phrase. And a write-up, I think common decency dictates that you ask for it. This is true, and I agree with that. Yet again, I just gave my meaning of what happens when people use the word you should, or what somebody should do. And I think, what did I respond to? Well, all of your initial posts, you came in the door immediately questioning who Mojo was, and questioning if he knows what he's writing about. It was like a direct frontal attack on the brother. I'm like, what's that about? Your motive for coming in was to let him know that his question is flawed. It's like, and who are you, boss? Like, what gives you the authority to come to another person's conversation and tell them what's quote-unquote wrong with them? I see that just being so consistent and symptomatic of the evil European viral infection lies, that his question is flawed, number one. You call into a question, what he's writing about. It's like that's just part of that infection. That's part of that addiction to power and control. So you come into the conversation in order to control the conversation and steer it in a direction that you believe it ought to go. That's your shit. And that is what I meant when I said that, and I stand by it, even as I continue to read your initial comments, which triggered my response to you in the first place. So, you go on to say what he should be asking, according to you, is why or seeking. And while that's a valid question for sure, it was just the framework that it was couched in that became problematic, or that I begin to question, call into question, and invite you to the recovery room for a conversation about it. For you, the apple cart then would be upset if you asked one question first and the other one later. And so that is where I was coming from. And, you know, as you suggested to me, it may have been useful for you to also ask me, what do I mean when I say that's your shit or the shit word or whatever. You go on to tell me where I get the audacity for you to come to communication coaching. But I can tell you is that you should stop being an armchair critic. Okay, and so again, to tell someone what they should do and then to label what I am, an armchair critic, whatever that is, as if it seems that you or do not consider yourself to be an armchair critic, given the fact you came into this conversation right away and on the attack with how someone asked the question from your chair you were sitting in when you sat down and typed the words on the screen that you did. And then you go on to tell me what your motive was, because after yourself the first question, you automatically answer the second, and you give it. That's all I need to say for now. I don't want to sit here and try to read all of this and then respond. You gave the example of an abortion, and that and who is being full of hot air. I guess that was me or Mojo. I don't know. And it's not something that I necessarily, really want to entertain, because it's argumentative, and I'm not interested in arguing with you or anyone else of African descent. At this point, I believe, for me, I'm not interested in arguing. I don't do debates. I do discussions. And so I really do work to refrain from name calling and or using certain buzzwords. You need to be in one of them, or you should be in another one. And to promote healthy and effective communication, I encourage us to make a conscious decision to rephrase and reframe our comments and commentary with each other. That's all for now. Peace.